right. Good morning. Good morning. Make sure if you can hear me, please. Okay, Queen Christy got knows how to do it. She been on her job. Lord, she been on her job. All right. Thank you. Get this chat call out the way. Remember, always, if y'all can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Purple, purple, you number one. Hey, Red Bunny. Good morning, Angel. I was thinking about you as I was watching the recaps of Marriage Booty. Yeah, I fell asleep on it. I fell asleep on it. Child, ain't that something? They done got caught now with them drugs. I thought it was her. How she was acting. She had guilty as hell. Hey, Queen. Queen in the building. Hey, Samantha Nicole. Shouty. Shout, shout, shouty. Hey, nobody's fool. Let me get this right. Yes, please, please, please. Hey, Regina White. Gina White. Okay, let me make sure about it. How many of these damn likes I have? Can I have at least two more likes, please? Two more. Two more. Two more likes. Okay, this is 20 pages. Like me up if you're happy it's Friday. Like me up if you happy that you can like me up. Like me up that you happy that you made it thus far. Like me up if your kid's okay. Like me up like I need one little stinking more. Thank you. All right, y'all. So, as a part of R. Kelly's sentencing procedures, there are several bits and pieces that comes out. Right, it comes out of different things. Right. The other day we saw J Bo ask for, I think it was asked for time to submit. I think it was a supplemental um, sentencing submission. Right. All right. So she's completed part one of it. Part one of it came in 4 this morning. Hey, Lady G. Um, I took a glance at it because I just wanted to know the months that she was asking for. So that was on the first line. So when you look at it and you do the math, she's asking for between 4 to 17 and a half years. That's what she's asking for. Now, keep in mind that the prosecutor is also going to put in their they, their sentencing a memorandum. Let me just take a look at the time that she asked for. Okay. Okay. And yeah, so this is the one where she requested that it be the supplemental part of it be submitted on June the 13th. Now we're also waiting on the prosecutors. The prosecutors, just at this point, with these parts of the procedure, the sentencing procedure process, just know that it's attacking the sentencing. Okay, one prosecutors want up, and it's gonna be a lot of repetitive stuff. They want either, you know, make sure that she give him as many months possible for a month or whatever the prosecutors ask for. They, he came out at level 43, which is life. So the prosecutors either advocating for that or something. You could bet it's going to be something more than what J Bo is asking for. And again, she is asking for between 14 to 17 and a half years. So you can get there in the chat and you kind of tell me how you feel about that. As people on both sides, a supporter or against R. Kelly, will you take between 14 and 17 and a half years if she has her way? She has her way. Is that okay with y'all? I'll put the report up here. If that's all right with y'all, let me know. Whatever side y'all on, let me know if between would y'all accept? We y'all won't tear this motherfucker down. We all accept 14 to 17 and a half years. I mean, and I really want to know. Yeah, I really want to know how the hell he feel about. Yeah, but we're gonna read it this morning. All right, 1 minute, and we're gonna start reading. Like I said, a lot of this is very repetitive. All right. One. It says defendant Robert Kelly's sentencing memorandum, part 1, by J. Bo. It says introduction. Defendant files this preliminary sentencing memorandum in support of his contention that the guideline range for his conviction is 168 to 210 months. Right? That's where you got the 14 to 17 and a half years. Defendant further contends that upon consideration of the facts set forth in 18 U.S.C. section 3553A, this court should sentence defendant to a below guideline. Consistent with this court's order, defendant intends to submit a supplemental sentencing memorandum on June 13th, 2022 that addresses the section 3553A factors with supporting mitigation that sheds light on the history of and characteristics of the defendant. Argument. A district court should begin all sentencing proceedings by correctly calculating the applicable guideline range, which should be the starting point at the initial benchmark. Case law. After a proper calculation, a sentencing judge considers the 7 factors set forth in 18 U.S.C. Section 3553. A. The nature of the circumstances of the offense and the history and the characteristics of the defendant. The 4 legitimate purposes of sentencing as set forth below. The kinds of sentences available. The applicable guidelines range itself and the relevant policy statement by the Sentencing Commission. The need to avoid unwarranted sentence disparities among defendants, and the need to provide restitution to any victims. Case law. In determining the appropriate sentence, the statute directs judges to impose a sentence sufficient but not greater than necessary to comply with the purposes of sentencing, which are A. To reflect the seriousness of the offense, to promote respect for the law, and to provide just punishment for the offense. B, to afford adequate deterrence, excuse me, to afford adequate deterrence to criminal conduct. C, to provide the public from further crimes of the defendant. And D, to provide the defendant with needed educational or vocational training, medical care, or other correctional treatment in the most effective manner. Reference. The guidelines sentence in this case is 168 to 210 months. Again, that's 14 to 17 and a half years. That's what she said it should be. The government and probation argued that the defendant's guidelines range is life, although they take different routes to arriving at that conclusion. As set forth in detail below, many of the enhancements suggested by the government and probation are simply unsupported by the evidence and the law. Defendant argues that the range is 168 to 210 months. Probation sets forth a comprehensive summary of the charges, convictions, and evidence presented in this case. Defendant has already lodged objections in response to the pre-sentence investigation report, including objections to some of the probation statement about the government's evidence. Defendant will highlight the trial record in this case necessary below. Defendant was convicted one count of RICO based on conduct alleged to have occurred between 1994 and 2018. The base offense level of racketeering offense is the greater of 19 or the offense level applicable to the underlying racketeering activity. USSG Section 2E1.1 point. Application note of the application note of the commentary guideline 2E1.1 instructs that where there is more than one underlying offense, treat underlying offense as if contained in a separate count of conviction for the purposes of subsection A2. Defendant calculates the offense levels for each racketeering act as follows. A, this is the defense, calculation, okay? Not what the pre-sentence report came out with. All right. A, Racketeering Act 1, bribery. Base offense level 12, adjusted offense level 12. The government and probations contend that a 2-level enhancement is justified on the basis that a defendant used a person less than 18 years of age to commit the offense. As argued in defendant's Rule 29 motion, the government's evidence failed to show that defendant knew that Demetrius Smith paid money to influence a public aid officer to produce an identification card for Jane Doe number 1, Aaliyah. The record is also devoid of any evidence that the defendant used Aaliyah in connection with the bribery. Of course, the bribery committed by Smith produced a fraudulent public aid card for Aaliyah, but it does not follow that the defendant used Aaliyah in the bribery. Accordingly, defendant's objection to a 2-level enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 33B1.1A. B, racketeering. Act 2, sexual exploitation, Stephanie. Base offense level 32, adjusted offense level 32. The government and probation argue that a 2-level enhancement is appropriate pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1 B2A on the grounds that the offense involved the commission of a sexual act. Defendant was found guilty of a sexual exploitation based on Stephanie's testimony that defendant recorded a sexual act with her when she was 17 years old in violation of 18 USC Section 2251A. The government contends that because sexually explicit conduct, an element of a Section 2251A violation, does not necessarily involve a sexual act, defendant is subject to a 2 level enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1 B2A because he engaged in a sexual act with Stephanie. Defendant disagrees. Enhancing defendant's sentencing based on facts that formed the basis of the offense amounts to impermissible doubt counting. Impermissible doubt counting occurs when one part of the guidelines is applied to increase the defendant's sentence to reflect the kind of harm that has already been fully accounted for by another part of the guidelines. Reference. The only conduct proven by the government is that qualified as sexually explicit conduct was the sexual act. Even if the government could not have theoretically proved sexual exploitation without evidence of sexual act, it does not follow the government can enhance the penalty based on a conduct that was already accounted for in the base offense level. Accordingly, a 2-level enhancement is unwarranted. So she was saying that the punishment for the crime was already included in a guideline, so it's no need for it to be enhanced by the 2 points that the pre-sentencing report asked for. C. Racketeering Acts 3 and 4, kidnapping and Mann Act violations. Sonia. Defendant was acquitted of racketeering acts 3 and 4 related to Jane Doe number 3. The government contends that because it could prove these racketeering acts by the lower predominance of the evidence, they could be taken into consideration pursuant to United States versus Riguero 100 F3D 284 Second Circuit 1996. Baby, my eyes is, I don't know what it's doing. And my mouth. Defendant contends that where the jury clearly found that Sonia's testimony was not credible, the court should not consider racketeering acts 3 and 4 in calculating the guideline range. Despite the government's contention, it does not ask this court to consider these acts in calculating a guideline range. D. Racketeering Act 5, Mann Act violation, Geronda, base offense level 24, adjusted offense level 24. The government urges a 2-point enhancement pursuant to USSG section 2G1.3B2. Because the defense involved undue influence toward a minor to engage in prohibited sexual conduct. Undue influence is defined in the guidelines as activity that compromises the voluntariness of the minor's behavior. The defining characteristics of undue influence is that it involves a situation where the influencer has succeeded in altering the behavior of the target. Case law. The government contends that a rebuttal presumption of undue influence exists because defendant was greater than 10 years older than 16-year-old Geronda when they engaged in sexual activity between May 2009 and January 2010. Contrary to the government's contention, defendant rebukes the presumption of undue influence. The trial record refutes any suggestions that defendant did anything in altering the behavior of Geronda. Quite the opposite. Geronda, a sophisticated 60-year-old, took great pains to get close to the defendant, including misrepresenting her age. Okay, it's coming in. Defendant did nothing to seek out Geronda. In contrast, Geronda forged a relationship with people in defendant's orbit, falsely claiming to be 19 years of age, all to get access to the defendant. Geronda admits she falsely told the defendant that she was 19 years of age when they engaged in sexual conduct. It is true Geronda claims that she purportedly confessed her real age of 16 to the defendant immediately after their first sexual encounter. However, even if this is true, Geronda's testimony does not reveal that a defendant used any influence, undue, or otherwise to engage in sexual activity with her. Defendant has been sufficiently punished for this offense, and a two-level enhancement for undue influence is simply not justified on the facts of this issue. Summarily, a 2-point enhancement is entirely unjustified pursuant to USSG Section 2G3.1B3, where the record is devoid of evidence that the offense involved the use of a computer or cell phone to induce travel to the minor. The government points to this court phone log, random photos, and a single text allegedly from the defendant stating please call as evidence of use a cell phone to induce travel. This evidence fails to show the defendant induced Geronda to travel to her home. The record shows that Geronda traveled to the defendant's home with no invitation and at her own volition. Indeed, the evidence showed that Geronda snuck into the defendant's home when the defendant wasn't even in town. Here coming the YouTube shit. Defendant did not induce Geronda to travel to his house. Furthermore, no records exist to establish the nature of any communications. Instead, Geronda's testimony does not support the government's argument that she was ever induced to travel to his house by cell phone communications or any manner. All right, let me see what we at right here. I'm coming right here to check on y'all. Y'all good? Is the likes up? Make sure them likes up, y'all. Make sure they like me up. Because there's a lot of pages this morning. Let me go check on before I say anything else. Oh, this free paperwork. Oh no, baby. Y'all will have to like me up some more than that. Oh no, honey. Oh no, baby. I'm about 12 short. Like me up, like me up, like me up. While y'all do it, I'll speak to some more people. Hey, Miss Down South, 1979. Hey, in this finest. Hey, Linda B. Hey, Lil Mac. Lil Mac. I said, Queen. What Linda B said. What Linda B came in and said. Hold on. Ooh, what she said? Let me see. Linda B comments all right. Why she was it an accident? Linda B comments all right. Baby, I need 6 more. Light me up. Light me up. This crazy. Y'all better be glad I won't be here all day. Let me go. An invitation does not equal inducement. The Second Circuit has made clear that the terms persuade, induce, entice, and coerce are words of common usage that have plain, ordinary meanings. Case law. The court distinguishes this conduct from merely asking, which is not sufficient to demonstrate criminality. Recognizing that there might be some uncertainty as to the precise demarcation between persuading, which is criminalized, and asking, which is not. The government's evidence fails to show any specific word of persuasion that defendant used in connection with Geronda. Thus, even if the government could argue that defendant asked or invited herself to come to his home and told her that someone would pick her up at the train station, that conduct is not inducement. Thus, a two-level enhancement is not supported by this record. Last, a 2-point enhancement is unwarranted pursuant to USSG Section 2G3.1B4. The government continued to argue that because a violation of 18 USC Section 2422 does not necessitate illegal sexual activity, an enhancement for sexual conduct does not amount to duplicative punishment. The government's argument is flawed where Racketeering Act 5 is premised on a criminal act, namely aggravated criminal sexual abuse under Illinois Criminal Code. In short, to prove Racketeering Act 5 as charged, the government was required to prove a sex act. Thus, any enhancement based on a sex act is duplicative to the charged offense, and the enhancement amounts to double counting. Oh. Racketeering Act 6, Forced Labor Geranda. Base offense level 30. USSG section 2H4.1B4B is 2. Adjusted level offense is 32. As the government pointed out, probation's calculations of the adjusted offense level for this count is erroneous, where the count did not include any production of child pornography. Although the defendant agrees with the government that the base level is 30, he objects to a 4-level enhancement pursuant to Section 2A3.1B1 because the government's evidence did not establish under any standard of proof that the forced labor count involves conduct described in 18 U.S.C. Section 2241A or B. As argued extensively in defendant's Rule 29 motion, Geronda's testimony described a assault unrelated to any sexual conduct. Geronda testified that the defendant slapped and choked her because he was on the phone and he did not believe she was texting a friend. She was on the phone. Reference at 176. Geronda testified that after the assault, she gave the defendant oral sex because he instructed her to do so. Geronda's testimony is devoid of any mention of threats of violence or acts of force in connection with the oral sex act. The previously described physical assault was completed and unrelated to instruction that she gave him oral sex. Geronda did not even testify that she feared defendant when he asked for oral sex, and she complied. Thus, the government claimed that defendant placed Geronda in fear of death or serious bodily injury is meritless. Accordingly, a 4-level enhancement is justified on this record. F. Racketeering Act 7. Sexual exploitation of a child, Geronda. Base offense level 232. Adjusted offense levels 32. The government agrees that there is no evidence that defendant used force in connection with the production of any child pornography and that a 4-level enhancement is inappropriate. Defendant objects to a 2-point enhancement pursuant to USSG section 2G3.B3, where the record is devoid of evidence that the offense involved the use of a computer or cell phone or to induce Geronda's travel. Number G, Racketeering Act 8, Mann Act Violation Jane, base offense level, section 2G1.1A2 of 14, adjusted offense level 14. The government concedes that Jane misrepresented her age to the defendant when she met him in Florida in April 2015, which kicked off a lengthy relationship. Incredibly, the government seeks a 4-level enhancement on this count, arguing that defendant committed a fraud in connection with this Mann Act violation because he did not disclosed to Jane that he had genital herpes. The government seeks to stretch the guidelines beyond all recognition, which explains its failure to offer any support for its novel theory that the failure to disclose a herpes diagnosis amounts to fraud, either as defined by the government fraud statutes, state statutes, or under common law. According to the Second Circuit, fraud involved a false representation, scienter, reliance, and harm. Case law. While the two have a few variations on these elements, harm is also present. Case law. Breaking scienter up into reasonably calculated device and intended to deceive. The government's evidence does not show that the defendant falsely represented anything to Jane or Jane relied on any misrepresentations. Although also absent is any evidence of harm, because there is no evidence that Jane was infected with herpes when she traveled to California with the defendant between April 28, 2015 to May 1st, 2015. The government cannot show that any harm resulted from his failure to disclose his herpes diagnosis. Indeed, Jane testified that she did not contact herpes from the defendant during this trip. Thus, the government fraud theory is patently ridiculous. A 4-level enhancement must be rejected under this theory. Number 8, Racketeering Act 9, Mann Act violation, Jane. Base offense level, section 2G1.3, 24. Adjusted offense level is 24. The government alleges that the base offense level for Racketeering Act 9 is 32. Pursuant to USSG section 2G2.1, which involves sexual exploitation of a minor by production of a sexual explicit visual or printed material. Racketeering Act 9 was a Mann Act violation, and therefore the appropriate guideline can be found at USSG section 2G1.3C1. Pursuant to USSG section 2G1.3C1, the base offense level is 28, where the jury determined that defendant was guilty of violating 18 USC section 2422B. The government seeks to convert this offense into an offense for sexual exploitation of a child, arguing that the base offense level is 32. But what the government fails to explain, why this court should not look to USSG section 2G1.3C1 as the starting point for correctly calculating the base defense level as to Racketeering Act 9, where the defendant was not convicted of sexual exploitation, but rather a Mann Act violation. Notably, defendant was separately charged and convicted of sexual exploitation of a child, connection with video recording sexual activities with Jane during their trip to California. The government theory fails for other reasons. At the time defendant purportedly committed Racketeering Act 9, Jane was living with the defendant and engaged in a legally consensual relationship in the state of Illinois. This is undisputed, no matter how distasteful the government finds it. There is nothing in the record that suggests that defendant brought Jane to California for the purpose of producing a visual depiction or their sexual activity. Notably, the government previously argued that the defendant's purpose in bringing Jane to California was to expose her to herpes. The government seems to believe that defendant's purpose in bringing Jane to California is whenever they say it is, depending on what elements it needs to prove. As defendant argued in Rule 29 motion, and then that's the motion to acquit. It says defendant motivating purpose in bringing Jane to California was to have her companionship, even if it included sexual contact. While Jane testified that her relationship with the defendant involved sex, that intimate relationship was legal in the state of Illinois. It is entirely illogical to suggest, as the government does, that defendant had purpose in bringing Jane to California to have sex with her, where they shared a home in the state of Illinois, where the age of consent is 17. Oh wow, okay, she make a pretty good point. If they already have a household in Illinois, why he got to bring her out to California for purposes of having sex? I'm pretty sure the prosecutor gonna say, okay, they flew out to California, but while they were there, they had sex, and you violated the Mann Act because you didn't do blah blah blah. We'll see. It says even if the government persuasively argued that defendant purpose in bringing Jane to California was to have sex with her, it cannot be said that the defendant's motivating purpose or any purpose was to produce video of that sexual activity. The government knows very well that defendant's travels with Jane had absolutely nothing to do with the producing commercial child pornography. Any attempt to increase the offense level under this theory is legally wrong. The government agrees that enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1 B6B1 is inappropriate. Accordingly, the adjusted offense level for racketeering Act 9 is 24. Okay, she said the government agrees in on this one. It says racketeering Act 10, Mann Act violation Jane, base offense level 32. Adjusted offense level. Defendant objects to a 2-point enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1B2A on the grounds that the offense involved the commission of a sexual act. Defendant was found guilty of sexual exploitation in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 2251A, based solely on Jane's testimony that the defendant recorded her sexual activity in late 2015 when she was 17, almost 18 years old. Notably, the sexual activity that occurred in the Northern District of Illinois was legal conduct, even if recording if it was not. The government evidence turned entirely on Jane's testimony, as the government produced no video of Jane and Jane engaging into activity during this time period. Oh, that was kind of what we was talking about the other night. First, the government should not be permitted to enhance sentencing guideline for this offense based on sexual conduct that occurred in the Northern District of Illinois, since that conduct was not unlawful. The unlawful activity in the Northern District of Illinois was the filming of the contact, but not the contact itself. Therefore, the enhancement could only be applicable for any sexual contact in the state of California. But again, as agreed, because the sexual conduct that occurred in California arguably forms the basis of the charged offense, it would be duplicative to enhance this offense based on sexual conduct. Contrary to the government's argument, simply because sexually explicit conduct does not require proof of sex for purposes of demonstrating a Section 2251 violation, where the government's proof of sexually explicit conduct is the sex act and nothing more. The government cannot enhance based entirely on theoretical. Hence, the element of sexually explicit conduct was allegedly proven by Jane's testimony that the defendant produced a visual depiction of their sex act. That conduct that conduct formed the basis of the charge offense and should not also serve as a basis of to enhance the defense sentence. Notwithstanding that the government did not need to prove the sex act to establish a 2251 violation, such enhancement would constitute impermissible doubt punishment under the facts of this case. Hold on, let me read this footnote. The jury was not asked to determine whether Racketeering Act 10 was based on conduct in California or Chicago or both. Oh, I get it. I'm sorry. The government agrees that defendant offense level should not be enhanced by 4 level for pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1 PV4. The government, let me sit my ass up. The government urges a 2 level enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 2G2.1B6, arguing that defendant stayed in touch with Jane by cell phone in order to induce her to travel to see him. Defendant and Jane were in a relationship, lived together, and traveled together. The defendant did not use a cell phone for any purpose other than communicating with his girlfriend. The government and the public may be outraged that defendant entered into a relationship with Jane, who he believed to be 18 when he was in his 40s. The government and the public may be outraged that defendant continued his relationship with Jane after learning that she had lied to him about her age, even though in the state of Illinois, the relationship was lawful. She listening to YouTube, y'all. But the government is clearly attempting to artificially enhance this sentence by ignoring the true nature of defendant's relationship with her. Damn, it just jumped. Okay. With Jane, I'm sorry. Put it differently, if the defendant had not traveled with Jane to California on an isolated occasion a couple of months before Jane's 18th birthday and had not video recorded his sexual acts with Jane, there would not have been no racketeering act as to Jane whatsoever. The government is free to feel moral outrage about defendant's relationship with Jane, but it cannot enhance the sentence based on factors it ignores their own evidence. The government's fiction that defendant used cell phones to persuade, induce, entice, coerce, or facilitate Jane's travel should be rejected, since it ignores nature of their relationship entirely and the base offense level already punishes defendant for his conduct. Accordingly, a 2 level enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 2G 2.1 B6 must be rejected. Well, Jane Doe number 5, give him hell. Woo! J. Racketeering Act 11, forced labor Jane, base offense level 22, adjusted level of offense 22. The government now finds it convenient to change its theory of prosecution to suit its sentencing argument. The forced labor offense involves a base offense level of 22. As the government concedes, the heart of the forced labor count is the allegation that the defendant obtained labor from Jane, forcing or threatening force against her in connection with sexual activities with women and men, none of which occurred when she was underage. As argued in defendant's 29 motion, there simply is no evidence, even from Jane, that she was forced or threatened with physical harm to participate in group sex acts. Her belated claim that she did not want to participate in such activities does not demonstrate that the defendant forced her to engage in such activities through physical harm or threats of physical harm. She might get something now. That said, if this court concludes that the evidence established that Jane's participation in group sex acts amounted to the offense of criminal sexual abuse, the government's calculation of an adjusted offense level of 36 would be accurate. But as stated above, the government did not establish the defendant committed an offense of criminal sexual abuse in connection with Jane's group sex act with defendant and others because the record is devoid of evidence of force in connection with those acts. All right. It says K. Racketeering Act 12, Mann Act violation. This is faith. Based offense level 14, adjusted offense level 14. Again, the government has no basis whatsoever to seek a four-level enhancement for fraud based on defendant's failure to disclose his herpes diagnosed to Faith. As argued previously, fraud involves a false representation assigned to her reliance or harm. Case law. Ooh, a lot. Okay, where there have been a few variations of these elements, harm is always present. Case law. Breaking scienter to up into reasonably calculated to deceive and intended to deceive. Well, now, who intended to deceive in here? Falsify. Okay. Talking about faith. Isn't that faith? Yeah. And let me read a little more. The government evidence does not show that defendants falsely represented anything to Faith or that Faith relied on any misrepresentation. Most importantly, there is no evidence of harm since Faith did not contract herpes from the defendant. Whoa! She said Faith did not contact herpes from the defendant. Team Chaos. Wait a minute. Faith testified that after traveling to New York, she was diagnosed with herpes type 1 after getting cold sores on her mouth. Reference. Nearly 50% of the population has herpes type 1 cold sores. Even the government's expert would concede that herpes type 1 can be contracted from kissing. The purported failure to disclose his herpes diagnosis to here as such a four-level enhancement under a fraud theory is nonsensical. Let me read that again because I felt that was a little choppy. Even the government's expert would concede that herpes type 1 can be contracted from kissing. The record is devoid of evidence that Faith suffered any harm in connection with defendant's purported failure to disclose his herpes diagnosis here. As such, a four-level enhancement under fraud theory is nonsensical. Number L, Racketeering Act 13, Forced Labor Faith. Based offense level 22, adjusted level offense 22. The forced labor offense involves a base offense of 22. As argued in defendant's motion 29, there are simply no evidence, even from Faith, that she was forced or threatened with physical harm to provide the oral sex to the defendant. Faith described an episode in Los Angeles where defendant allegedly had a serious conversation with her and then directed her to give him oral sex. She did not describe defendant using force or threatening any force. As a reminder, Faith never alleged that she was a victim forced to engage in any sexual contact and denied that characterization of her relationship with defendant. As much defendant objects to the government's contention that this conduct involved criminal sexual abuse and that a base offense level of 30 is appropriate pursuant to USSG Section 2A31. All right. M. Racketeering Act 14, Mann Act violation faith. Base offense level 14, adjusted offense level 14. For the reason argued in connection with Racketeering Act 12, no 4-level enhancement is justified under the government's novel fraud theory. N. Rule enhancement. The government seeks a 4-level enhancement pursuant to USSG Section 3B1.1A on the basis that the defendant was an organizer or leader of the criminal activity that involved 5 or more participants or was otherwise extensive. Defendant has argued extensively that the government failed to show the existence of enterprise. The government's evidence showed that the defendant was a famous entertainer who employed many people over the years. Defendant was unquestionably the boss of his employees, but the defendant fails far short of establishing that he was a leader of criminal activity. Indeed, the government did not even attempt to prove criminal activity as the organization of the employees of the organization. A 4-level enhancement is simply not warranted here. Q. Minor in custody, care, supervisory control of the defendant. Brazenly, the government seeks to enhance defendant's guidelines range under a theory that Jane's parents entrusted defendant to her supervision when she was a young minor, purportedly to assist with her music career. After Jane lived with the defendant, the record shows that Jane's parents directed Jane to lie to the record shows that Jane's parents directed Jane to lie to the defendant by her age and then encouraged her to seduce him in April 2015 when she was 17 years old. And damn text messages. The real-time text messages between Jane and her mother revealed that Jane's mother wanted the defendant to promote Jane's music career by commencing a romantic relationship with him. Again, the government seeks to summarize the facts of this case, which shows that after Jane met defendant for the first time, she immediately began traveling with the defendant and never returned home. Nothing in the record suggests that Jane's parents objected to this relationship. The evidence shows quite the opposite. Indeed, Jane's mother jokingly told her daughter weeks after Jane met the defendant that her son-in-law was going to be older than her. Jane's mother certainly knew Jane's age, even if the defendant did not. Much as Jane was adamant about she wanted to live with defendant in Chicago, and Jane's parents were eager to support her relationship with the defendant, presumably because they hoped financial riches would flow to them. It was defendant who sent Jane home after Jane disclosed that she was 17 years old. Regardless, Jane was not a minor in the state of Illinois. The age of consent is 17. When she turned 17 to Chicago shortly before her 18th birthday, as the government contends, as such as enhancement under this theory can apply. So I'm trying to figure out what she's saying. Okay. Because it seems like she's going to knock out and be the, never mind, the damn mascot for the school. Honey, baby, listen, I'm thinking about my schoolwork and this work. Y'all don't have to bear with me. I'm not on the screen. I ain't been there in a minute. All right. P. Now, this is the adjusted offense level. The following summarizes defendant's position regarding the offense level for each group count. Defendant contends that Racketeering Act 5, 6, and 7 should be grouped pursuant to USSG Section 3D1.2A, as should Racketeering Acts 9 through and 10, 9 and 10. Probation agrees. Okay. You getting some light at the end of the tunnel with this. All right. Racketeering Act 1, that's 12, level 12. Racketeering Act 2, level 32. Racketeering Act 5, 6, and 7, level 32. Racketeering Act 8, 13. Racketeering Act 9 and 10, counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, level 32. Racketeering Act 11, that's 22. Racketeering Act 12, counts 6 and 7, that's 14. Racketeering Act 13, that's 22. Racketeering Act 14, 8, counts 8 and 9, that's 14. All right. All right. Let me come around the front, see how y'all doing. See how y'all holding. Oh, come on around the front now. Check out these like 'em up buttons. Where we at? Okay. I sure do appreciate y'all, but can I get a few more likes? Because they provided all the tools so we can do a little math. Okay. All right. Now it says defendant contends that the combined offense level is 35. The offense level applicable to the group with the highest offense level is 32, pursuant to USSG section 3D1.4. The number of units that the remaining group represent. The offense level should be increased by 3 levels, 3 units for a total of 35. Because defendant criminal history score is 1, the guideline range properly calculated is 168 to 210 months. So let me tell you this, right? So you see the level here is 32. Now, for the more serious crimes, so everywhere where there's a high number, they're asking to give another point. So you have a point here, everywhere you see 32, here, here, and here. That's 3 points. So you see right here, she says group remaining group represent the offense level should be increased by 3 levels, 3 units for a total of 35. So that's how you get your 35. You see your offense level is 32. You get a 1 for these high crimes. It's 1, 2, 3. And then that came out to the 35 that she's talking about. And in conclusion, the foregoing reason defendant seeking range should be 168 to 210 months, which is 14 to 17 and a half years, as will be set forth in defendant supplemental sentencing memorandum. Defendant should be sentenced to a below guideline sentence. And there's nothing else. You know, we learned from before to check what's going on in the back. Because remember, R. Kelly will slide something in the back there, honey, for you to read what he got to say. R. Kelly been a slid something shit. I got to say some shit. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me cut this off. Hold on. Hello. So let me talk to y'all and see what y'all thinking about. What are y'all thinking about? Hold on. Okay. So let me see what y'all talking about in here. Holler at a few y'all. Let me go up some. Go up some. What we got? Oh, I got a lot to say. Oh, thank you so much, y'all, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. All right. Yeah, Gangsta Boo is something else. Okay, Queen Christie says only because I believe that time is 3 times per time already served, which is equivalent to 9 years already served already. Time served, too much IMO. It says the fact that he relinquished his rights to for forfeiture is my issue with it all. Hey, London B. I don't feel the 14 to 17 years is nearly enough, considering the 30 years that he had been sexually abusing children and the fact that he could do much less that time than that under the First Step Act. Oh, wow. How can you defend a child molester? Remember, all comments are welcome, y'all, so don't be blocking. Good morning. Racketeering ridiculous. Queen says, can people change? Do people change? According to the motions, the alleged crimes were committed over 2 decades ago. As for Azrael, her parents coached her and her daughter to perform. Lil Mac, don't block anybody for saying their opinion, even though it's wrong. Thank you, Lil Mac. Lil Mac with the enforcement. Thank you, Lil Mac. Say it, everybody. Hey. Yes, people can change, but the molesters don't. Show me a child molester that stopped molesting children without being incarcerated or medically castrated. And define this. Hey, hon, this is Robert's destiny, karma. He got an opportunity to change 30 years ago, but he didn't. Some more good mornings. Please like. It says he shouldn't have been charged alone, convicted. Their testimonies wasn't credible. Right. Is this report Miss Andrew reading from? Yeah, I'm sorry. That report's from Jennifer Mondine. So let me tell you. So we can anticipate the prosecutors same thing, right? So you know they're gonna be arguing different. Now, here's the thing. So you see Jennifer is saying 14 to 17. How old is R. Kelly? R. Kelly was born in 67, right? So that would make him 55. So R. Kelly is 55. If he got the lower end of like the 14 years, remember I said anywhere between 15 and 30, but I thought she would probably do like maybe 20 and 25. So if he did 15, he's 55. That'd be 7. That'll be, he'll be a little short of 70. Or if he goes a whole 17 and a half, he'd be like a little over 7. Because remember, you get good time and stuff like that. So I don't know. Hey, Judah Baker, that's right. You just hit that. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Studies show that child molestation began at home with the family. R. Kelly has 2 daughters and has a host of nieces and nephews. No allegations. During the trial, there was one underage victim in attendance. Thank you, Little Mac. Az is not a victim. Her parents pimped her out and still are pimping her. I'm just saying. Don't worry about sentencing you guys. Robert case will be overturned. Thank you, Shaw, baby. Look, Mac, I agree. I don't believe he slept with Geronda Pace. Slept. Oh, y'all too kind. Thank you, Queen Chris. Thank you, Queen. Oh, thank you, Pumpkin. Y'all so sweet. Ooh, I'm about to cry. Ooh. I just got off live not too long ago. Saw this, went to sleep, honey. I took me a little shower and came on in. I said, let me knock this out. Hey, nobody. Thank you, nobody's fool, too. Y'all so sweet. You're welcome. Lil Max, exactly, Queen Chrissy. She stayed for 4 years. She lied about her age. She traveled to California the whole time while she's lying about her age. Man, act the attention there wasn't the attention there wasn't to have sex. He had a show. Nope, nobody's. I don't believe R. Kelly made a habit of approaching young women when he can hold young women accountable for their actions. If a young black man, 16, commits a crime, he's charged as an adult. Right, right, Queen. Charlie shouldn't giving out age. But right, where is the accountability for the action performed by the young women? Obtaining a fake ID is a crime. If the officers were unaware of her age, and how is R. Kelly supposed to know? So let me look at the guidelines real quick and to see how far apart they may be. All right, so she's asking for a level 32, which is 121 to 151 months, right? No, no, she said, no, no. Did she say level 32 or level 33? What she said? Did I close the paper out? Oh, let's see what she said. I thought it was 168. 168 to 210. So let me look on this chart. 168 to 210. Oh, okay. That's a level 35. So let me put the chart up here so I can show y'all how far away this is. I mean, I don't know. Okay. So she's saying that's level 35. So you see when all those places was a 32 because of oh, I draw a blank. Where is her form? Exactly. Okay, because of what they call they have to determine the combined offense level. That's when I was adding those points up there. That's when she was saying, "Where is the girl? Where is the damn thing?" That's when she was saying um, that her level is 32, and pursuant to USSG Section 3D1.4, the number of units that the remaining group represents, the offense level should be increased by 3 levels. So that's what I was doing. I gave it the 3 levels, and you give the three. You give a point for because he's in. Making sure I'm looking at the guide. He is in of unit increase in offense level. So you give a point number of units of the highest level, increasing that level by and 1.5 add 1. Okay. So yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, I added that right. So that's how she got to 35. So she's talking about coming in right here. He's right here. So I mean, what do you think? Do you think the prosecutor? I mean, well, I think the prosecutor gonna probably stay around here. You think the judge? Look what the judge have to operate in. Just say if the judge go down to 39, how many months is that? Let's see, three. I mean, how many years is that? Let's see, 327. 327 months. I'm just doing the highest one. So that would be 27 and a quarter years. If the judge came in at whichever one I just did, 327. If the judge came in at level 39, right? That's kind of mid range. J Bo's at 35. If you come in at level 39, if the judge do, that's 27 years. So 27, that's 75. So he got like around in his 80s. If she comes in the middle. I don't know if that would be the case. All right, I'll just make sure I add that right, and I did. Okay, so um, I'll take a few more. Look at a few more comments. Ooh, it done jump. Hey, Danny. Yes. I asked the question yesterday, Angie, and you never answered me. You was having your own private conversation about what question? What? Stop lying. What happened? They need to look at something. It's true now. Let me see. Hey, Queen. Hey, L. Lawson. Someone, he is not a damn child molester. Damn Frankie and Johnny. Hello, nobody's fool. Hey, Frankie. Shaw Baby one. You welcome. So I hope you're doing well. Good job. Oh, thank you. Stop lying. What was the question? Little Max again. One Angie. Hey, Queen. I don't doubt they would try it because of the money they already got in the win under the belt, even if granted acquittal. All right, stop lying. Yes, I agree with Kristen. This is awesome bullshit. They act like they literally raped to kill people, and he doesn't have any priors with a clean record. Okay, shove about he needs to do life. Oh, her emotions have definitely been strategic. Yep. Can we get a retrial? Well, the best shot you have at that retrial is that one where she put in due to ineffective counsel, assistant counsel. That's probably the best one due to the jury and that conflict. Um, I know that's far fetched, but I agree. Bonjean initially took this case Robert will be free now. Queen Chris said they definitely did not. We all saw that they screwed him, and even with Mr. Canick on there, we knew it wasn't already preset for him to be guilty. Set up. Little Mac, freedom man. I can only understand that Queen Diva, but you know they had it. Okay, Judge and Don. If you coming in, please. Thank you, Queen Chris. Queen Chris so sweet. I love me some Queen Christie. In there, the finest. But yeah, so look for the prosecutor to be dropping theirs. Now, she said, J-Bo said she has another, her supplemental to this will be by June the 13th. Like I said, all of this is the sentencing submissions, right? So this is like one of the last steps before the hearing. So this report is like the last step before the hearing. So I forgot about they do all this now. I really did. But now you have an idea of what she's trying to go for. I don't think it would be any lower than that. So you can kind of say we got an idea of our lowest. So our idea of our lowest is between 14 to 17 and a half years. And I say that because I say we could start at that. We can use that as our starting point because that's what the defense has asked for, you know. So she said the level should be this. So that's why I said we can use that as our base, unless Judge Ann really, really, really feels sorry for him and she really go rogue. Other than that, we can say he's at least going to get between, 14 and 17 and a half years. All right. Y'all got it? Did y'all understand what I said? I know it was choppy, honey, because I can't hardly see. Excuse me. Good morning, Leslie. Right. Now, it won't be no time, sir. Won't be no time, sir. But he's been since 2019, 21, 22. So that's 3 years. Yeah, yeah. So we know at least the minimum. We can presume that. We presume that is the minimum. So we got something to work with. Because we ain't mind our own damn business, baby. We be trying to get, listen, what we can get. Trying to figure it out. Yeah, he'll only serve 80% of the time. So yeah, because I think you get 54 days a year. Uh-huh. So she's asking for that. So are y'all good? Y'all cool? So I can get on up out of here and finish my rest. Hey, Sir Miguel. How can you be so damn sure they're in a respective good morning to you? Hey, respective in here? Trying to make sure I get everybody. I don't see respective. Oh, you're welcome, Queen. Okay, I'm running errands and listening. Sounds pretty solid. Okay, so y'all get it. All right, so we know what our basis is, and then we're gonna see what the prosecutor says. Now, honey, we're gonna see. Now she's gonna either, oh, this getting juicy. The prosecutor need to drop theirs when it was due. When is it due? Was it due by today? Yes, hon, I'm knocking them out. Thank you, Lady G. What's it due by today, the prosecutors? Because around the same time. Hold on, hold on. Let me see. I thought she gave an order with this. Yeah, let me see before I get off here. I ain't minding my own damn business. Just to kill it. Okay, let me see. I can go right there to her leave. Okay, let me go right here to hers. To her 297. Let me see what the date was. Okay. I respect the defense maybe. The government doesn't so the government does not object to supplement submission. You can get it prior to May 26th, but you cannot alternately the defendant June 13th for the sentencing extension. June 13th. Government medication received on June 9th. The government by way of okay, October 20th. Trying to see. Well, anyway, they should be coming in shortly. She got every date in here but what I need. Come on, J-Bo. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Here it is. Here go the dates. The experts with the Alex critic. But if they simply cannot have a report complete by May 26th, if they cannot complete their visits with the defendant until May 25th, they have, however, agreed to complete the report by June 9th. Okay, she said repeat by June 9th. And she said June 9th. Sorry, y'all. Y'all can go if y'all want. I'm just looking for this thing. So she said June 9th in there. The judge says the extent of submission. Citizen will not be extended except for the offense period June 13. Okay. I don't know. We'll get it. And we'll get y'all thank you, Red Bunny. Y'all so sweet. Lord have mercy. Y'all about to make me cry. Okay, Queen, I'm not really sure what that means, respectfully, of course. But I what I understood was that the judge said no to the parents' text to the daughter because they weren't part of the case. And yeah, stop lying. That's true in this motion. Now, because those text messages that J Bo was referring to, all of this happened post trial. So it was never those set of text messages were never in the trial. The parents, it was some situation about a mental health. I'm telling you, and it was on Sylvia's platform, and I'm simply looking like plain as day, the whole surrounding how it was, and I cannot think of that motion because you see, we they got up to 300 entries now. Shit, I'd be going through motion after motion, but it was the one where they talk about mental health. I'll never forget that. Well, y'all, that is no. We don't want to stay. No, we don't want to go. We want to stay. We love your commentary. Oh, thank you, Stop Line. Y'all about to make me cry. Ooh, ooh, don't make me cry. I did a whole one last night. And listen, I got to give y'all some more Lifetime movies for the weekend. Y'all, that thing was so funny. Joseph talking like, I clicked on, I thought it was one of the lives, and you got something alive and alive. Like, what is going on? I done clicked on one thing and talking about a Lifetime movie. What you doing? You know what I'm saying? What you doing? All this shit. Yes. Yes, Lord. So y'all let me get on up out of here. I will talk to y'all later. Remember, be good to yourself, each other, and do some good for another. So we got some of our, yeah, that kind of to the edge, y'all. So we kind of know a little bit what he's facing. Okay, it's getting, it's getting defined. It's not like, oh, he can get life. Okay, so we do know she's coming in at least at the low end at 14 up to 17.5, 17 and a half. I always said between 20 and 25. I'm just wondering what the prosecutor is going to put press for. So these are the last little steps. This is the whole procedure when it comes to the sentencing. Yeah, you're just in that sentencing phase. So this is why we're getting all this repetitive bullshit, but they're briefs and filings and shit for a specific reason. And those reasons always need to have the background. They can't say, they deny this motion because of counts 5 through 6. Okay. Yeah, they ain't gonna do that. Well, all right, y'all. Thank you, Jude. Great. Thank you, Sir Miguel. Please, please, please hit the like. But I am Sir Miguel. I'm gonna get that title for you. I'm trying to be better by putting titles in there. I'm trying to give y'all a lot of black movies. I ain't discriminating, but white Lifetime has so many white movies, y'all. I'm trying to get some good black ones and get it okay. So, well, all right, that is my time. I love you, honey. Thank y'all for coming by and coming through and coming back. And I will see you on another one. I hope that damn prosecutor do not drop that damn paperwork like after I click off. All right, y'all. Bye.